So as this is my first review, I haven't quite decided yet if I'm going to associate like a number with each review as its rating or if I'm going to do no rating or a different sort of rating. So for this review, I'm simply just not going to give it a rating and I'm just going to talk about the movie. So this movie is I, Tonya, and it's about the U.S. figure skater Tonya Harding and her downfall through a series of controversies, which is what this movie mostly surrounds. It does act sort of as a biopic depicting her from a child to about the 2000s, and it works in a way that it is based on a series of interviews of the actual people. So you see these interviews occurring throughout the movie. So you'll see her mom do an interview, or you'll see her ex-husband do an interview. And all the stories throughout the movie are based on these interviews. And it allows for this sense of like each character really has their point of view that is portrayed throughout the movie, even though it's mostly based on Tonya's point of view. This even leads to some fourth wall breaking, which can be a little odd in a biopic, but it can create some comedic situations. In this way, it does work historically as accurate as possible, since it's all a very he said, she said matter. They just portrayed both sides of the story and tried as hard as they could to make it all seem right. The only side that I felt like was really truly underplayed in this was Nancy Kerrigan. You only met her a few times in the movie. There's some scenes that were meant to be funny with her, and then there was, of course, a scene where she gets her kneecaps broken. But besides that, you see her side of the story obviously throughout the news, but you don't really see what this meant to her and what happened to her and how she felt about Tonya after that and what she believed was the case of this whole like mishap. And I feel like that's one part that was a little bit downplayed that it would have been interesting to see played out. As far as cinematography goes, it works. It's a basic, nothing too special, but it's still interesting enough to watch. The ice skating scenes, I've seen some complaining about how the CGI looks horrible and how it's just totally ridiculous. And I kind of agree with it. The CGI isn't like cartoony bad, but it's kind of not nauseating, but it's disorienting sometimes. And I think that can take away from the point of the scenes. But most of the time, the skating scenes aren't what the movie are focusing on, even though it is a movie about ice skating. Most of the time, it's really a deep dive into these characters. And as far as these characters go, there are some really great moments with them. Margot Robbie plays Tonya Harding, from what I can tell, perfectly. She is funny enough, she can act mean enough, and she can portray all of this emotion and this buildup and this history in such a great way. And one of my favorite, or not my favorite, obviously, but one of the most powerful scenes in the movie is when she's sitting there trying to do her makeup for her show, and she is just crying and practicing her smiling, just showing like the problems that have built up over her life over trying to put on this facade in the career of ice skating. And I think that was a perfectly done scene and so well acted by Margot Robbie. As far as the other characters go, I think they're very serviceable. Her mother, it's the same way. She acts like she should. From the interviews that they show at the end of the movie, she seems to have a lot of those mannerisms and a lot of the same, like even looks down to it. She seems very, very similar. There are some comedic roles in the movie. For example, the man who hired the people to attack Nancy Kerrigan. He's obviously played as like sort of a joke in the movie, and he seems unbelievable at first. But as seeing him in the end credits, it's like, wow, they actually portrayed him really well. Everyone in this movie seemed to be portrayed really well. I really liked her boyfriend in this. He played a really, really good role, and he was able to go deeper into that and really show like what everyone else couldn't have seen when most of this was all being blamed on him or her. And it really allowed for a different point of view to be portrayed. And I thought that was really great. As far as the movie went as a whole, it all fell together really, really well. The interviews didn't act too much like a clutch, but they also worked to make the story more coherent, which is truly just like a series of events. Like, it has to span so much of her life in one movie and still focus so much on the most interesting parts that it makes it kind of hard. But these interviews really piece it together, and they can sometimes be serviceable comedically. As this movie is kind of being advertised as a comedy, I think it works. I think it works as a comedy movie. Even though it is about serious situations, it is a hilarious movie. There are scenes in here that are just super, super funny. And the jokes, they mostly land. I was in the theater, and a couple times I heard people laugh at things that I didn't quite find so funny. They were more depressing to me. But other than that, there was no jokes that meant to be jokes that just fell flat. All of the jokes that were meant to be jokes worked perfectly for me. And I thought that was really refreshing to see in a movie that had to cover so many serious subjects, that it could just work sometimes as a comedy. I know this isn't something that is often like should be said, like, oh, this is a good movie because it featured this, but it was nice that they featured this. The reaction of the press and the public at the time in all of this, you get to see Letterman jokes, and you get to see, like, although those might have been funny, they like deeply, like, they resonate with the characters. You can feel that those hurt them, and that they've just become this punchline. And one of the final scenes in the movie where she has to go away from ice skating, and she's in the courtroom, and she's begging to do anything just to keep ice skating, just to keep pursuing her passion, and she just can't do anything about it. She feels helpless to the situation because of a mistake she may or may not have been part of, and you don't know. The movie, in that sense, doesn't give you too much of an ending because there's not too much of an ending today. You know that she went on to boxing, and you see her in the end, and there's this great juxtaposition where earlier in the movie you see her doing these amazing jumps and these slow motion cuts of her jumping, and in the end of the movie you see her getting launched and there's blood going everywhere, and these same style of shooting, like just how she had to just adapt to just stay relevant. Otherwise she would have just faded away, and she couldn't have that. And that's just really interesting to see with all the stars that go. You can see them going from relevant to irrelevant, and just seeing that juxtaposition of when she was truly in her prime to when she was doing anything to get by was just really, really well done. Overall, I love the movie. I thought it was really great in portraying her as a character. It was a funny enough movie that allowed it to get some of those serious subjects down more easy, and it was a good movie. It had plenty of focus on characters. The story was always interesting. There was never any really pacing issues, and everything just felt important and integral to the next part in the movie, which sometimes you don't quite get in biopics. And overall, I think the actors did a great job. I think the director did a great job, and I think it's just a great movie. So that's it for this review. These reviews are kind of just going to be me talking about the movie, not as much scripted as my other videos are going to be. If you want more scripted videos, or if you want more reviews like this, subscribe to my channel, comment, and let me know what you want. And that's it for this video. Thank you.